Now, before we get into today's episode, I want you to be sure and subscribe to our newsletter. There is a link below to it in the description. That way we can stay connected no matter what happens, even if the fit hits the shan, because we got a country to save. Recently, I was on the Joe Piscopo show out in New York. We had a good time.
And I got to meet people, great people like Larry Elder. So when Larry came in, I knew of Larry Elder, and then he came in and we became fast friends, and I've become an annoying friend to him, asking him a million questions when he's kind enough to join us on the air. So let's get started with my dear friend Larry. Welcome back to the show, my friend. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Joe. It reminds me of the story when you and I were in Cleveland, we were walking around. Remember we were going home? You said, Larry, could you drive me home? I said, not a problem. You said, do you mind if I sit in the back? I just saw Driving Miss Daisy. I want to get that feel. Remember that? You don't remember that?
Fake news. Total fake news. Fake
you don't remember that? All right.
Don't start, man. Hey, Larry, you know what I don't know? You know, hey, listen. You know what I know? I love you, man, and you know that. What music do you? I don't know. When you came on stage, and this is Larry and I was playing in a place called Vitello's in California and in the Valley, and I was there, and I said Larry Elder's in. Someone slipped me a note. I introduced Larry. Long story short, he jumps on stage, does a killer Louis Armstrong with me on stage. It was great. But did you like? Is it? It's going to sound prejudiced if I say you're a black fella, Larry. Do you like jazz? You know, I don't mean it to sound like that, but are you a jazz guy? Because you like.
No. I'm a big jazz guy, and I'm a big Frank Sinatra guy, Dean Martin. I love all these crooners, and I like classical music. I played a little piano when I was growing up, and I love R&B. I love country western. The probably only genre I don't really care for is hardcore rap and heavy metal. Those two genres don't really appeal to me, but pretty much I like almost everything.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I see, and we'll get to the issues of the day, but Larry, just riffing here, my friend, I always idolized James Brown as a kid in high school. I just idolized James, and then I saw how he kept the peace and was a true social warrior. And I feel like folks like Sammy, like Ella Fitzgerald, like Count Basie, they don't
my
get.
Problem with James Brown is Joe. I can never understand what the hell he was saying. Could you?
What? I said it on stage when I met him because it's like Springsteen's the same way. You can't quite understand Bruce because he's got that talk. You can't understand some of these cats. I understand what you're saying, but
and
when
we were filming. Pat Boone told me this funny story about James Brown. He said he first met him, and James said, "Pat, how much we get for a concert?" And Pat said, "Well, it kind of depends." Give me a number. Oh man,
Pat Boone and James Brown. There it is.
There it is.
It was so funny. Pat Boone knew, and like everybody, he was telling us these stories where we were shooting the Relief Factor spot. Pat Boone met everybody. Larry, I didn't know he knew that many people. My gosh,
he was, and let's remember back in the day, he was maybe one scooch below Elvis in terms of popularity. The man went to Columbia University, has an undergraduate degree from Columbia. This is a sharp guy.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, but Larry, to the point though, Billie Holiday and all these great artists of the day, Nat King Cole, I don't know that they get the respect as social warriors, because people think, oh, it's tough now. Oh, there's prejudice now. Back then, I mean, until Mr. Sinatra came in and really said, hey, if Count Basie can't stay with me, if Sammy can't stay with me, then I'm not playing. And I mean, the civil rights fight back then was just daunting, and people seem to forget about that, Larry. Am I right?
Of course you're right. I mean, that's my problem with Gwen Barry. Notice the segue, Joseph, we just now did. That's my problem with Gwen Barry. This is a hammer thrower who turned her back on the playing of the national anthem. A lot of conservatives saying things like, well, if you don't want to represent your team, you shouldn't go. Well, wait a second. Back in 1968, when Tommy Smith and John Carlos put their fists in the air, protesting prejudice in America, 1968, that was literally months after the Supreme Court struck down what were called anti-miscegenation laws in the South that prevented black men and black women and white men and white women, black men from marrying each other. That was the same year that Congress passed the so-called Open Housing Act to prevent blacks from being discriminated against in the housing market. So you're talking about a very different time. And I remember applauding them. I was 16 years old at the time they did that, and I applauded it. What is Gwen Barry's cause? Her cause is allegedly the national anthem is racist. No, it's not. The passage she referred to has a very different interpretation than what she says. There's a Prager University video that explains the origins of the national national anthem. I put it up on social media just now. So that's my problem. It's the same problem I have, Joe, with Colin Kaepernick. People don't remember this, but the case that inspired him was a case of a black man being killed by the cops in Oakland named Mario Woods. And Kaepernick said the police, quote, executed him, close quote. No, they didn't. The man had a knife. You even see a bystander with a cell phone saying to the black guy as the police are confronting him, put the knife down, man, put the knife down. He didn't. He lunged. He got shot. And that was what Colin Kaepernick called an execution. Now, would we care if a Chinese national athlete winning a medal turned his or her back on the playing of the Chinese national anthem because of the way China lied about the coronavirus, or because of the way China has lied about Tiananmen Square, or because of the way China has oppressed 2 million Uyghurs? We'd applaud that person, and we know that person would be a dead man walking. Same thing with Cuba. Imagine if a Cuban athlete turned his back on the playing of the Cuban national anthem because of all the political prisoners that have been behind bars for decades in that island. We'd applaud that athlete knowing full well he or she would be dead man walking or dead woman walking. So it depends on the cause. Gwen Barry, like Colin Kaepernick, has BS causes. America has never been more fair, never been less racist. I think I mentioned this last time I was on your program, Joe. Yeah. 2007, when Obama was running, Gallup asked whether Americans would not vote for somebody because they were black. 5% of Americans said I wouldn't vote for somebody because they were black. Gallup asked, would you vote for a woman? 11% said they wouldn't vote for a woman. Would you vote for a Mormon? At the time, Romney was running on the Republican side, 24% of people said they wouldn't vote for a Mormon. Then they asked, would you vote for somebody as old as John McCain would have been had he been elected? 42% said no. So Obama had a lower threshold than the three more experienced, at the time, better known white politicians. So racism has never been a more insignificant factor in American life, but we've never been more woke about it. It's BS. It's a con. With Democrats push for votes, the media pushes it for ratings.
You know, and Larry, does it bother you? Like it bothers me when I see Michelle Obama say, oh, they're racist. There's racism. And then I want to just say, excuse me, with respect, Michelle, we voted for a black president. Why did they stay on that mantra, Larry?
Again, it's about votes. It's about making sure that black people, 15% of the electorate, are angry at the world and therefore go in there and pull that lever 95% for the Democratic Party. If they don't get that, they can't win. I remember the first time Michelle and Barack were interviewed by 60 Minutes. And Steve Croft, the correspondent, said to Michelle, are you worried about Barack Obama's safety? And she said, no. As a black man, he could be shot at a gas station in Chicago. And she was right. She was not talking about neo-Nazis. She was not talking about QAnon. She was talking about the minority of thug in the community that is terrorizing places. And that is what they ought to be talking about. You know what's going on in Chicago, New York, L.A., year to year, shootings up, homicides are up, and we're talking about systemic racism. It's nonsense. What's going on and the conversation they don't want to have, Joseph, unless you're prepared to say black people are genetically inclined to commit more crime and commit more murders, unless you're prepared to say that, you've got to ask yourself, what the bleep is going on here? And the answer is the absence of fathers, a direct relationship between that and crime, that and dropouts, that and not being economically productive. Those are the issues, and nobody on the left wants to have that conversation because they have to look in the mirror and say, oh my God, I've passed policies that have induced the situation to go from 25% kids entering the world in 1965, black kids without a father married to the mother, to 70% now. We can have a debate about the 25% to the extent to which that is about slavery and Jim Crow, but there's no question the 70% has nothing to do with that, has everything to do with left-wing stupid policies that have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility, and the left does not want to have that conversation.
Woo! Larry Elder on fire this morning with Piscopo, 9:13.
Mic drop!
Stay with me, Larry. Stay with me.
Hold me down, Joseph. I'm on fire.
I know, but I love it. You.